Welcome to St. Augustine's Confessions Explained. In this first part, we'll walk through Book 1, where Augustine opens with a prayer, a paradox, and a confession. He wants God, but he doesn't yet fully understand what it means to find God. I read key lines from the text, sometimes lightly smoothed for clarity, then pause to explain what Augustine is doing and why it matters. To begin, great art thou, O Lord, and greatly to be praised. Thy wisdom is infinite, and yet man would praise thee, man, a tiny part of thy creation, bearing his mortality and the witness of his sin. You awaken us to delight in thy praise, for thou hast made us for thyself, and our heart is restless until it rests in thee. This is one of the most famous lines Augustine ever wrote, the restless heart. He's saying something bold and intimate. The human person isn't simply curious about God. He is built for God. So the feeling of restlessness, of wanting more, even when life seems full, Augustine treats that as a spiritual symptom, the soul searching for its true home. Notice the tone. He begins by praising God, but immediately admits the tension. How can a sinful, fragile creature praise the infinite? That tension becomes the energy of the whole book. Then a puzzle. Do we praise first or call first? Grant me, Lord, to know and understand. Which comes first, to call on thee or to praise thee? And again, to know thee or to call on thee? For who can call upon thee, not knowing thee? He who does not know thee may call on thee as something other than thou art. Augustine is exposing a problem that still feels modern. If I don't know God yet, how do I pray? But if I don't pray, how do I come to know God? He's worried about projecting a false God, inventing a deity in our own image. So he's careful. Prayer isn't just emotion, it's also truth-seeking. Then he answers by leaning on faith. I will seek thee, Lord, by calling on thee, and will call on thee, believing in thee. For to us hast thou been preached. In other words, I begin where I can. I start by calling, by faith, because God has already reached toward me through preaching, through Scripture, through Christ. Then the startling question, where would God fit in me? And how shall I call upon my God, since when I call for him, I shall be calling him to myself? What room is there within me where my God can come into me, God who made heaven and earth? Do heaven and earth contain thee, or do they not contain thee? This is Augustine thinking in real time. He wants God close, in my heart, in my life. But he also knows God isn't a physical object that moves into a space. So he asks, if God is everywhere, what does it mean to say God comes to me? If God fills all things, does anything contain God? Then Augustine flips the whole idea. I could not be at all, unless thou wert in me, or rather, unless I were in thee, of whom are all things, by whom are all things, in whom are all things. That, or rather, is important. He corrects himself. It's not mainly that God is inside my space, it's that I exist inside God's sustaining presence. So prayer isn't bringing God near, as if God was absent. Prayer is waking up to the God who is already nearer than we realized. Then he asks, who is God? A cascade of titles. What art thou then, my God? Most highest, most good, most potent, most omnipotent, most merciful, yet most just, most hidden, yet most present, unchangeable, yet all-changing, ever working, ever at rest. Augustine is trying to speak about God without shrinking him, so he uses pairs that feel like opposites, merciful and just, hidden and present, because any one word fails on its own. This is not a neat definition. It's worship mixed with philosophy, language reaching toward what exceeds language. Then he catches himself. And what have I now said, my God? What says any man when he speaks of thee? Yet woe to him that speaks not, since mute are even the most eloquent. He's saying every attempt to describe God is inadequate, but silence isn't enough either, because the heart must answer the one who made it. Now St. Augustine comes to a personal turn. Say to my soul, I am thy salvation. Oh, that I might repose on thee. Enter into my heart, that I may forget my ills and embrace thee, my sole good. Tell me, O Lord, what thou art unto me. Say unto my soul, I am thy salvation. Here the book becomes a prayer you can almost overhear. Augustine isn't only exploring ideas, he's asking for an encounter. And notice, he doesn't ask first for answers, or success, or comfort. He asks for God's voice, God's self-giving. Say to my soul. This is a major theme. Augustine believes the deepest healing isn't self-invention. It's being addressed by God, being known, called, and remade. Saint Augustine follows with confession before biography. The heart's house is too small. Narrow is the mansion of my soul. Enlarge thou it, that thou mayest enter in. It is ruinous, repair thou it. Cleanse me from my secret faults. Spare thy servant from the power of the enemy. Before Augustine tells his story, he confesses something universal. The inner life can be cramped, damaged, disordered, too small for what it was made to hold. This is a powerful image. The soul as a house, meant to host God, yet needing renovation. And Augustine insists, I can't renovate myself into holiness by sheer willpower. So he prays for cleansing, especially for sins he can't even fully see, secret faults. Then we move to the beginning of Augustine's life. Gifts received, not achieved. I know not whence I came into this dying life or living death. Then immediately did the comforts of thy compassion take me up through the parents of my flesh. Thou didst bestow the food of my infancy through them. From thee, O God, are all good things. Augustine begins his autobiography with humility. I didn't author my own existence. I didn't earn my first breath. Even his mother's milk becomes a theological point. Not sentimentality, but gratitude. God gives life through human means. He's training the listener to see reality as gift. He then follows with a surprisingly honest look at babies. I knew but to suck and cry at what offended my flesh. When I was not presently obeyed, I was indignant and avenged myself on them by tears. Such have I learned infants to be, and that I was myself such. Augustine is not saying babies are as guilty as adults in the legal sense. He's doing something subtler. He's observing that even early in life, we see the seeds of disordered love, a self-centered demand, my will, right now. For Augustine, sin isn't only a list of crimes. Sin is a bent of the heart, love curved inward, and he's brave enough to admit, it was in me early. Then he reflects on God's today and our passing years. Thou, Lord, forever livest, and in whom nothing dies. In thee abide fixed forever the first causes of all things. And since thy years fail not, thy years are one today. How many of ours and our fathers' years have flowed away through thy today? Augustine ends this opening movement by contrasting two experiences of time. We live in passing years, birth, change, decay. But God is not trapped in time the way we are. So when Augustine looks back at infancy, he's not merely nostalgic, he's confronting mortality, and he's placing his fragile life inside God's eternal presence. And he closes with humility again. What is it to me, though any comprehend not this? Let him rejoice and say, what thing is this? If you don't fully get it, Augustine says, don't panic. Let wonder itself become a doorway. Better to seek God honestly than to pretend mastery. That's part 1 of Book 1. The restless heart, the mystery of prayer, the nearness of God, the need for cleansing, and the first notes of Augustine's life story. In the next part, we'll continue deeper into Book 1, where Augustine moves further into memory, education, desire, and the early shaping of his soul.